What's up everyone and welcome back to the MMA Zone. Today, let's get started with Islam Makhachev's team response to Conor McGregor fight. After Islam Makhachev's dominant UFC 294 win over Alexander Volkanovski, the expectation is that the lightweight champ would next defend his title against Charles Oliveira. As Hall of Famer Daniel Cormier stated, however, if former champ Conor McGregor winds up emerging victorious from his big return fight, a bout between he and Makhachev would be a massive pay-per-view success. Speaking in an interview with Red Corner MMA, aka head coach Javier Mendez weighed in on the potential fight, stating that if the champ is interested, then he's in.
Well, I see that as a fight that would be interesting for Islam because, he gets to do what Khabib didn't finish, I guess you could say. He gets to come back and get on the same journey that Khabib did, and it's a great payday for Islam. And so I think it's great if Islam wants it. If he doesn't, then then maybe going to the welterweight title is more appealing to him, to create a legacy that he wants. Because beating Conor is not going to create the kind of legacy that Islam wants, right? So,
as Makhachev looks to defend his lightweight title once again, it'll be interesting to see whether he pursues a big payday to settle unfinished business with Conor McGregor, or looks to cement his place in UFC history as a two-division champ at welterweight. Next up, let's take a look at Henry Cejudo sends message to Jon Jones. With Jon Jones in the twilight years of his career, the heavyweight champ will now be forced to work his way back into form after suffering a torn pectoral muscle in training. The incident, which was captured on video, forced Jones into surgery, pushing his next fight off by 8 months, according to Dana White. According to Triple C Henry Cejudo, who helped Jones train for his big comeback against Cyril Gane, the heavyweight champ needs to adjust his training after the injury. He spoke about the situation in a recent video for his YouTube channel.
It's just letting you know that Jon Jones's body, he's not that 21-year-old kid, that 23-year-old that became the youngest light heavyweight champion in history. I mean, these are a lot of lessons, man. There's one thing that I will say about Jon is very smart. Jon is very humble when it comes to him being taught, and he's very honest when it comes to him actually doing things right. I think the issue right now is the age, man. Jon Jones is approaching an age where he's gonna be 36 if he ain't 36 already.
As Cejudo went on to explain, Jones should take a page out of former pound-for-pound kingpin Anderson Silva's book and adjust his methods of training to be more tactical rather than going live with training partners frequently and putting himself at risk for re-injury. Next up, let's take a look at Israel Adesanya returning to UFC soon? Former UFC middleweight kingpin Israel Adesanya was recently in attendance at the Fury vs. Ngannou pay-per-view showdown in Saudi Arabia, where he spoke with media members about his return. At the time, he joked that he would look to return in 2027, creating quite a bit of buzz around the MMA community. In a recap video shared on social media, Adesanya can be seen interacting with famed footballer Cristiano Ronaldo, who was also in attendance at the fight. Along with the video, the last stylebender teased the return to the octagon, writing, "I always appreciate the love from greats who recognize the realness. Saudi Arabia in March. Tempting, ha ha ha." While the expectation is that Khamzat Chimaev will fight Sean Strickland next, Dana White indicated after Adesanya's loss to Strickland that he wanted to see the two run things back. With Chimaev currently dealing with a hand injury, the last stylebender could look to compete early in the new year and avenge his loss to Sean Strickland. The UFC Saudi Arabia event is expected to be a massive card despite not being a pay-per-view. Given that, it's safe to say Adesanya would surely be a big addition to the event. Now, let's shift gears and take a look at UFC Fight updates. After an exciting night of action in Sao Paulo on Saturday, let's take a look at today's UFC Fight updates. First up, we have a new fight added to UFC 296 on December 16th between Andre Fili and Lucas Almeida, in what's sure to be an exciting featherweight clash. The bout will see Fili look to bounce back from a July loss to Nathaniel Wood, while Almeida will be looking to return to the win column after a June loss to Pat Sabatini. The event, of course, will be headlined by a welterweight title fight between Leon Edwards and Colby Covington and will take place in New York. Looking ahead to the new year, the UFC 297 card is beginning to take shape, with reports indicating that Raquel Pennington and Mayra Bueno Silva will be competing for the vacant bantamweight title in the wake of Amanda Nunes' retirement. The card on January 20th will notably not include Juliana Pena, who revealed on social media that she's injured and unable to compete. According to Ariel Helwani, who spoke with Pena overnight, when she's healthy and ready to return to action, she'll compete for the bantamweight belt. The quote from Pena reads, "I'm injured. I will fight the winner. My next fight will be for a title, guaranteed. I feel bad, not for myself, but for the fans that are being force-fed this horrible fight. What a disaster." Reports have also indicated from Ariel Helwani that the lightweight rematch between Islam Makhachev and Charles Oliveira will take place at UFC 297 on January 20th as well. However, the fight has yet to be finalized. Last but certainly not least, regarding the fight updates, fan favorite light heavyweight Johnny Walker has reportedly locked down a date for his next fight after his controversial scrap against Magomed Ankalaev in Abu Dhabi. In a post on social media, he wrote, "I have a fight date. Excited." So far, no word yet as to whether or not the fight will in fact be a rematch against Magomed Ankalaev. With a number of today's UFC fight updates indicating that exciting bouts are in the works, stay tuned for updates as they become available. Next, let's take a look at Mark Zuckerberg versus Elon Musk receives horrible news. Mark Zuckerberg's love of combat sports has put him on a long road to recovery after the Meta CEO tore his ACL while sparring. Although he hoped to make his MMA debut early next year, he'll now have to heal up before he can do so. This of course means that a potential scrap with Elon Musk is now even less likely to take place after the Tesla founder reignited talk about the fight during a recent episode of the Joe Rogan Experience. In a post made on Instagram, Zuckerberg wrote, "Tore my ACL sparring and just got out of surgery to replace it. Grateful for the doctors and team taking care of me. I was training for a competitive MMA fight early next year, but now that's delayed a bit. Still looking forward to doing it after I recover. Thanks to everyone for the love and support." Although Zuckerberg didn't mention Musk, the talk of a potential fight between the two is sure to die down for quite some time. As he indicated in the months prior to the injury, he was interested in pursuing a legitimate route into MMA rather than a clash with Musk, meaning we may never see the two go head to head. Next, let's take a look at how Vince McMahon screwed Dana White and the UFC. Although Dana White's UFC and Vince McMahon's WWE are now united under the TKO banner thanks to Endeavor, there was a time when McMahon was going out of his way to make Dana White and the UFC brass's lives miserable. As UFC CEO Dana White explained on the recent episode of Donald Trump Jr.'s Triggered podcast, there was one time he and Lorenzo Fertitta flew out to Connecticut to meet McMahon, who had the final say in a deal the UFC was trying to do with NBC.
We're doing a deal with, we do all the small talk first, and we're like, well, the reason we're here, we're doing a deal with NBC, and Vince just sits back like Vince sits, and how he is. And we said, we're about to do this deal, and we're going to, have fights on NBC and everything else, but you need to sign off on it. He's like, yeah, I'm not going to do that. And we're like, why? Why? I'm just not interested in it. I don't like the idea of you guys being on USA Network.
As White explained, it ended up working out because the UFC signed a great deal with Fox. However, the incident was just one of many times that White says McMahon went out of his way to give him trouble. Next, let's take a look at Netflix looking to stream boxing events. On the heels of the thrilling clash between Francis Ngannou and Tyson Fury in Saudi Arabia and the end of Showtime Boxing, Netflix is now reportedly looking to get into the combat sports industry. According to a report from the Wall Street Journal, the streaming service has allegedly discussed streaming influencer boxing, with Jake Paul's DAZN contract nearly up, as well as traditional boxing between premier boxing champions fighters. In the wake of the news that Showtime Boxing would be no more, the Premier Boxing Champions roster has been left without a platform. As a result, Netflix seems to believe there's an opportunity for them to step in with live sports offerings similar to competitors like Hulu. With promotions like One Championship streaming on YouTube and Amazon, streaming services are beginning to gain real momentum in the live sports category. In addition, with the PFL's broadcasting deal with ESPN up at the end of the year, Netflix could look to make a huge offer to host MMA events on their platform as well and shake up both the combat sports industry and the streaming industry. Islam Makhachev reveals bad news. It was reported by Ariel Helwani that Islam Makhachev versus Charles Oliveira was in the works for January. But Ali Abdelaziz came out on Twitter calling out Ariel and said that Islam will not be fighting Charles Oliveira in January, and the earliest he'll fight would be in March. Ali tweeted saying, "Fake news from a fake. Charles Oliveira doesn't deserve nothing, just engaging next. Guys, please don't listen to people can't even get credentials to UFC events. Fake news." Top comments: "I'll believe Conor's next fight when I see it fight night. Until then, who really knows? No one thinks Bo is the greatest collegiate wrestler in American history. Where did you get that? Bo is an amazing wrestler, but he's not a 4-time national champ. He might be in the top 20 to 50 greatest college wrestlers. Bo thinks he can beat anyone, and he's a big talker while having fought nobody. Bo Nickel, what's the point of speaking about Eagle? What's the point? He's out of the game. Fella just making silly speaking against Habib. Oh, I would win. I'd do that, I would do that, and that. he'll never find out if he would beat him or not. I just don't understand people like him. Shame on him. Honestly had big respect for him for being humble most of the time. But since he started saying BS about Khabib, about how he would defeat him, all respect gone. I still think Khamzat would destroy him. Obviously if Khamzat will fix his vitality stuff. Make sure to leave a comment and you might get featured in our next video. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications to never miss any MMA news. Check out our video from yesterday if you missed it. See you tomorrow.